Well, this is the 23rd of July, 1986, and this morning we are very fortunate to be down in Columbus with Earle Bruce, and we're in the field house down here. And Earle, I'm real pleased that you've been able to give us a little time that we can finish off our series of interviews that we have.
Well, Dr. Immel, I'm very pleased that you're here to interview me.
Well, Earle, what I'd like to do is start off with, can you tell us a little bit about where you were born and maybe something about your parents
sure.
and something?
I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I lived there for my first 11 years and then moved to Cumberland, Maryland, where I attended Allegheny High School in Cumberland. My parents, right now, my mother's here in Columbus living, and my father died last year during football season, so I have one parent living. And after graduation from high school, I chose to come to Ohio State University, mostly to play football. And I found out that after my sophomore year, my career was over. I stayed and helped coach football and graduated and went into coaching.
Mm-hmm. And where did you start out? Tell me a little about your coaching experiences up until you got to Massillon.
Well, when I graduated from Ohio State University in 1953, I was interviewed for about 2 or 3 high school football jobs, assistant jobs, and I chose to go to Mansfield, Ohio, under a fairly fine, successful football coach by the name of Bill Peterson. Mm-hmm. And I chose that because they had a nice stadium, they had nice facilities, they had a good football program, and that was very competitive in the state. And I was going to learn a little football from Bill Peterson, who worked very hard in the techniques and skills of football. I was an assistant there for 3 years, 2 of which were under Bill Peterson. And when Bill Peterson elected to go to Louisiana State University as an assistant to Paul Dietzel, Bob McNay came in as the head football coach, and in 1955 I was an assistant under Bob McNay, who was a very successful high school coach. In fact, at that time Massillon tied us in a game 12-12. A very exciting football game in 1955, played at Massillon. From Massillon, I became the head football coach at Salem, Ohio, and was there for 4 years. And really, the Salem program when I went there was something like 3-5-1 and 2-8. In the first year, we were 4-5-1, 4-5, and then the next year we were 8-1, I believe, and then 9-1 and 7-2, whatever. But we had a good, successful 4 years at Salem, Ohio. And the Quakers were very good and very competitive against the top competition that we played, including East Liverpool, and scrimmaged a lot of fine football teams. We had a lot of fine football players at Salem, Ohio. And in 1960, I moved to Sandusky, Ohio, with the Blue Streaks, and became the head football coach there, and was there for 4 years. And we had great football teams in the 60s at Sandusky, and we were 34-3-3, I think, in the 4 years we were there. And I thought probably I'd remain the rest of my life in Sandusky because I liked the town, I liked the people, and we were having great success, and the program was very good. From the 6th grade to the 12th grade, it was outstanding. But when Leo Strang moved to Kent State, the Massillon job came open, and people said that I should apply, and I did, and I was interviewed, the most extensive interview I've ever been given in interviews for jobs, and I've been interviewed for a lot of football jobs in my time. And I really didn't know whether I was going to take the job, and I finally called Woody, and I said, Woody, I got a good job at Sandusky. I don't know whether I'll take the Massillon job. He says, you have to take the Massillon job. He said, you have no choice. That's too great a job to turn down. There's a great opportunity there. And so on his advice, elected to take the job, and it was an outstanding job. I mean, moved in there in April 1 of 1964 and started to build for the coming season.
Mm-hmm. Are you aware of some of the candidates that were interviewed by the board and the screening committee when you got the Massillon job?
I think, if I remember correctly, the one candidate was there when I was there was Chuck Stobart.
Chuck was there from Mount Vernon, and Jim Young,
yep,
who later went to
To
Purdue
Purdue.
and is now at the Army.
Yep.
We had we felt the finest group of candidates we had ever had.
Yep, I think there were some good candidates at that time.
And of course, at that time, we had a game coming up.
Oh,
in the second ball game that year.
yeah, I
which
think
was
that
very important, and we're real glad we had someone with your experience available.
well, that was I remember that tremendously. That Leo Strang and Tony Mason had set up a game to be played in the Rubber Bowl between Now's McKinley High School and Massillon, the Massillon Tigers, and that was to be the second ball game of the year, and they had won 48 straight consecutive games, and if they beat Massillon at that time, they would go on to probably break the record of 52 consecutive victories that was held by Massillon, and they most certainly were an outstanding football team. And we played in the Rubber Bowl between 30,000 people, and it was just that kind of a game. And we won that game in the last little bit of the 14-8. And it was a great victory for Ohio State. For Ohio State, for Massillon.
Yeah.
And it was a super game to play in. And if you remember all of it, it so happened that the week before we were very lucky to beat a Cleveland East football team, something like 16-0. We beat them in the last 3 minutes. And I went over to watch Niles McKinley play on Saturday night, and they humiliated a Cleveland East Tech team, something like 58-0. And everyone thought that with Massillon eking out the victory and looking rather poorly, that it was going to be an easy victory for Niles. But what people didn't take into consideration is that the Massillon players have great motivation in a big football game, and I saw them arise, so to speak, arise to the occasion. They played so far. I don't mean over their heads, but they played with such great emotion on defense, and it was a defensive football game, no doubt about it. That neither team could score very much, but they were all hitting hard and running to the ball. And our defense, and if you think about it, Dave Shegog was playing a cornerback at that time, and did an outstanding job. Later to become a really top-notch offensive quarterback at Massillon. But that was a super game, and really a game that swings you over to believe that when it comes game night on a Friday night or a Saturday night, whatever you're going to play at Massillon, that those young men arise to the occasion and play. They just are inspired, and they run to the ball and they hit and they do all the things that are necessary to win the football game. And I always have said that made me a great believer in the Massillon Tigers system, in the whole program, in the support by the fans, the band, the atmosphere for being successful and doing a great job on a Friday night. Because that's, when you think about it, you can practice and play and do a lot of things in practice, but what it really comes down to is how you perform on Friday night, and they really performed on Friday night.
Yeah, you said after the game that was the night that you became a Tiger.
That's right, absolutely. A great believer in the total program. And you know what? You don't think about that. We rolled over a lot of good opponents that year after that, and some we won in the fourth quarter, but the game that sticks out naturally is that year, 1964, we played Canton McKinley at Massillon, and they were undefeated. Both ranked 1 and 2 in all of the polls. And if you remember, ABC sent in a camera crew and a program called Scope that made a news program to feature Massillon and the Massillon Tiger football program. And that was quite an experience for me to see. I saw young people react to the media in a very positive manner and do things that and say things that were overwhelming. And I know one thing, it even converted the ABC camera crews and announcers and things to be rooters for Massillon in that football game. If you remember, we were down 14-0 going into the fourth quarter and pulled that out, I believe, 20-14, which was a great climatic thing for the Scope program. And they were great supporters and they acquired great admiration for the city of Massillon and the Massillon Tiger program, which was naturally outstanding.
Mm-hmm. Well, while we're on that game, we have a quarterback, Shegog, as you said, that came off the bench.
Oh, yeah.
The regular quarterback.
Steve Canner was our regular quarterback for every game, mm-hmm. and going into the fourth quarter, injured his ankle and couldn't go on. And fortunately, we had a good quarterback, Dave Shegog. And many thought that he might and should have been the starter, but Steve Canner had given us a winning performance every week, so he was there. Dave went in, and not only did he return a punt and put us in position for a touchdown, he ran the option very effectively and put the ball in the end zone and moved the team and did everything to excite the crowd, and we moved in and won the game 20-14, and then held them off as they came down the field because Kent McKinley had an exciting team of their own with great players in the lineup. I've never seen an array of talent like that. And if you remember, we even lost John Malbach, our captain, linebacker and center in that ball game, and a young man came in and played well the second half for him because John couldn't play in that game in the second half, and we won that football game with great effort, great team effort, great individual effort, but most certainly a team that was aroused to victory. And the thing that was amazing is that they never gave up, and neither did the student body. And if you're really excited to next year, it's almost unbelievable in 1965 that we go to Camp McKinley and play. Bup Rurik is a great personality in Canton. He died the week of our game, and they were wearing black armbands to honor him as a great coach at Canton McKinley, and they were playing that game for them, and they jumped out ahead of us 14-0 at halftime. Again, at halftime, we gave our talk, and I looked over to Ducky Schroeder, who was a great assistant coach at the time, and I said, Ducky, there's no way we can duplicate last year's performance and come out and win the football game. He said, I don't know. I wouldn't say that. And we walked out of the dressing room, and there was the whole student body of Massillon in a kind of a line, a file, two columns for us to run through, and they cheered, and I thought, well, if the student body hadn't given up, how could the team or the coaches give up? So sure enough, a young player by the name of James did some outstanding things, and so did some of the other players, but we intercepted a pass and ran it back, and we moved the ball, and finally in the last quarter we beat them 18-14, and for the second year in a row of a great victory for the Massillon Tigers in a game that's just super. It's hard to believe the atmosphere between two high schools like Kent McKinley and Massillon, and we were fortunate to win. And one thing I want to tell you, Doc, I've never looked forward to losing a football game at Massillon. Well, what you told me is you worked on my teeth. I wouldn't want to have that garbage truck dump any garbage on my lawn or tell me that we lost one of the football games. I'd much prefer to go away from Massillon undefeated, untied.
Yeah, I remember telling you that you left Massillon before really finding out who your real friends were.
That's
I
right.
Said you left
You're
thinking
right.
Everybody was your friend. And you lose the ball game and find out.
Talking about that, there were some really great things in the program. I'll tell you the things that I remember and I really liked well. One was the Monday noon meeting at the Massillon Club with a group of businessmen. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was outstanding, where you could talk a little football to them and they could understand what you're trying to do and everything. I thought that was a very great highlight for a football coach. I thought that Friday or Thursday night, when the sideliners group picked up the players and took them to dinner, we went then to the American Legion home and had a nice dinner, whether it be chicken, ham, beef, whatever it was. It was an outstanding way of sitting down with some of the people in the community and saying we care about the players and that. And I thought that was outstanding. So I sometimes didn't look forward to going to the Boosters Club meeting in the auditorium or the auditorium, and especially the first one, because that was the most exciting after we had come from behind and beaten Cleveland East 16-0. Many people thought that we were just a lousy football team and not very good, but they didn't know that we played that game without 6 regulars that had to be held out of that game in order to be ready for Now's the next week. But we were very spotty, and they were very aroused, and there were about 4 or 5 people that were out to hang you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the thing I liked about it is the newspaper man came up and said to me, he said, "Now, listen, Earle, as long as there's 500 people here, that's good." And you explained to them about the blocking and the tackling and that, and get your message across. The day that there isn't 500, the day that there's 50 or 100, you're not going to be the coach here probably. But the other thing is we're going to leave here and we're going to go over to a group of men that are very much interested in this program, that do make decisions, and that was the board of directors of the Boosters Club, who were an outstanding group, array of talent. Mm-hmm. I mean, all the leading businessmen and the doctors and the dentists and the lawyers were part of that mm-hmm. Boosters Club and very much interested in the city and the town and the football program, which I thought was outstanding. It was very impressive for me because most booster clubs were made up of blue-collar workers and not many doctors and lawyers, and people got interested in the program on the high school level. But in Massillon they did, and that was very impressive. And what they said and what they did and how they handled the situation was first class. And then I go to another group on Thursday night that was called the Reese's Raiders, that were the blue-collar, funny-type guys that were interested, and they had all the answers. And I remember a few instances there were outstanding. They were just class people that were nice to get along with. But they were the supporters. That was the group of people. And then to think that you average somewhere around, and I say 11,500 or 12,000 people to your games, maybe more, and have 22 or 30,000 in the Rubber Bowl. To the Camp McKinley game, it was average 22, 23,000. Naturally, that's exciting. Exciting for the kids and exciting for the coaches. And the only thing that I can remember about the Massillon program that you're limited, as a head football coach, you're only limited by your own imagination on what you can do and legally do, because everyone wants you to get new uniforms every year, and I was not one to do that. I don't like to think that football is a carnival. I like to think that football is a game, and the young men play it, and they learn a lot from it, and it's very good for them, and it's very good for the community to have people on the football field learning all of the things that they should learn: the hard work, the dedication, the courageous atmosphere, the pulling together, the teamwork, the unity, the family atmosphere, whatever. I think that's the real benefit of the football program. And I'm sure the one thing that always amazed me is people from outside, including the ABC Scope people. They were coming in saying, "Boy, the Massillon people really exploit their kids for football." Mm-hmm. And you know what? I want to be sure that everyone understands. The thing that I learned there was that every one of those parents cared about their young people, that they were very much concerned about what they did and how they did it. Just like every place else in the country. They don't want exploitation. They want them to excel. They want them to succeed, but they want them to do the things the right way, and that's important. For many people think that all they care about is winning. That's not true. I've seen one thing at Massillon that was very impressive to me. They also recognize good performance out of the opposing team and a good performance of an individual football player. Many times football fans will boo the opponent. Even in college football, when you go on the field, if you're the opponent from out of town or they boo you. They don't recognize that that other team has good players and good coaches. But I think at Massillon, they really like to see a game where a team, the opponent plays well. Now, they don't like to see them win, but they like to see a good football game and recognize the talent and the performance of their players as opposed to the performance of the other thing. And I've seen them give a standing ovation to another player for a good performance.
You mentioned uniforms. Just for a minute, I remember the boys coming out of the dressing room at the Niles game. That you,
well, you did, yeah. That I guess that I thought that was a great thing. We went in at we had a special jersey for that game to beat Niles, and we had beat Niles on the back of them because one of the things that Niles really under Tony Mason and really engaged in was intimidation. They tried to intimidate the opponent, and one of the ways they did it was the way they entered the field. They'd sometimes run through your calisthenics chanting "beat Massillon" or "kill them" or whatever. And when we came out of our dressing room, I would make sure we were going to come out first so that they were looking at our backs, and in the back they were looking at, they might be chanting "beat Massillon," but they were looking at "beat Niles." And we were going to show them that we were out to get them, and that they were the number one target for Massillon. And so we changed jerseys at halftime. It was a great inspiration for the team. They really got a great kick out of that, having that jersey that said "beat Niles" on it. And I was just elated the way they performed. It seemed that everything we did in preparation for that particular football game was just right. You know, you just hit it right. We went up and practiced up there on a Thursday, and we wanted to make it feel like we were at home at the Niles Rubber Bowl and that they were the visiting team, and it just seemed to work out in our favor.
And near the end of the game, they were moving, as I recall. They had that big fullback.
Well, the thing that they did, you remember,
panicked a little bit.
Yeah, they threw a third down or fourth down play. The quarterback on a 2-minute offense killed the clock and killed the ball and gave us a chance. And I think he threw it out of bounds on a third down and short situation, which made it nice. But I want to tell you something, Doc, so you get it straight. There's nothing they could have done would have won that football game for them.
No.
I want you to know that because we were playing.
Oh, yeah. But it kind of showed that they were not used to having to score one touchdown to win a ball game.
Yeah.
They had been winning them all by
a big
50,
score.
60 points, and when they needed one, they didn't know what to do, really.
Yeah, the pressure was on them.
Well, is there anything further? How about some of the players you had that really stuck in your mind?
Well, let me say this. There's not only some of the players that we that played on our football team. Naturally, I think the two that I coached that came to Ohio State, John Mulbach at center and linebacker, and was a great inspiration on our football team, and captain and everything, was a great leader. And then, of course, Whitfield was an outstanding player as an outside linebacker, toughest kid I think I've ever coached pound for pound. Started 3 years down here at Ohio State. I mean, he was an outstanding player, just a tough kid. Larry Larsoul, who was a guard for us and an All-American guard for us the year before. I came there and played extremely well as a football player. We played against a kid from Altoona, Pennsylvania. That Altoona series, the 2 games we played them, was a classic. And the one that they had a young man that played fullback and defensive tackle by the name of Reed, that went on and had an outstanding career at Penn State and then at the Cincinnati Bengals, was a player that I'll never forget. Our right tackle at the time was Dennis Morgan. He fired out at him and hit him, and we didn't go anyplace. We didn't gain any yardage. He came back later on and said, "Coach, we got a real tough player over here on the right side, and we're not going to be able to run this way tonight." So we ran all of our plays to the left that night. And one time they took that tackle, Reed, and moved him down over Larry Larsoul, and Larsoul fired at him, and he buckled his knees. And Larry said to me, I heard him say on the sideline, "I hope they move him back over Morgan," because he was such a great player. But you know what? We had great players. Dave Shegog was a great player. But the thing about Massillon was the team aspect. That you, even though you had some outstanding individual players, it was that they all played well, and it was a different guy that contributed sometimes. On defense, exciting defense. I've never coached a football team where 11 guys on defense swarmed to the football. I've had 7 or 8 or 6, but not 11. And every play, there were 11 guys wanting to knock your head off on the defensive field, which makes that easy to coach. But then the other aspect of it is when you play at home, you have a lot of things going for you, and one of the things is that the other coach might clutch up and give you a touchdown or 2 early in the ball game before he finds out that about everything's equal. And that's a little bit of an advantage at Massillon that you use if you're very smart to score quickly and get ahead. But I think when I look at the good football players, it was just the unity, the teamwork, the unselfishness of wanting to do well on Friday night to win the football game, not caring who succeeded necessarily in the passing or the catching or whatever. Just pulling together and doing the job, both offensively and defensively. I think that was outstanding.
Okay, is there anything else you want to touch on at Massillon before we go into what happened to you after you left?
Well, nothing other than my family certainly enjoyed my 2 years there. They were my girls were young and they became Tigers rather quickly, and they thought it was a tremendous letdown to leave Massillon and go to Ohio State.
Well, give us a little rundown on what's happened to you since you left Massillon.
Well, when I left Massillon in 1966, I came to Ohio State as an assistant coach to Coach Hayes and coached the first 2 years at Ohio State as an assistant coach in the defensive secondary, and then moved over to the offensive guard and center position for 4 years. And after 6 years with Coach Hayes, I then became the head football coach at the University of Tampa, where we had a record of 10 wins and 2 losses and won the Tangerine Bowl. And from there we moved to Iowa State University in 1973. The 1972 season was 10-2 at the University of Tampa. And then in 1973, 74, and 75, in the Big 8 conference with Ohio State, we were 4-7. In 1976, 77, and 78, we had 3 consecutive winning seasons of 8-3 at Iowa State. And that was the first time that they've ever had 3 consecutive winning seasons. And just a great 6 years at Iowa State. And then when the job came open at Ohio State in 1979, I became the head coach. And I guess everyone knows a little bit about that. The first year we were 11-1 and lost in the Rose Bowl to USC 17-16 to a great USC football team. And we played extremely well but lost by 1 point. And then the last 6 years, we've been 9-3 and won some good games against Oklahoma and Michigan and some other teams, Iowa. And we've lost some heartbreakers to Wisconsin and Stanford and whatever. But that's been the record so far, and we're looking forward to the 1986 football season with a lot of hope against Alabama and Washington, Utah, and Colorado, which are tough football teams.
I think last year your game against Brigham Young was about as good a defensive football game as I've seen.
Well, I'll tell you what, in that particular bowl game, the Citrus Bowl, our defense played extremely well. The best they've played against the forward pass with the rush and the coverage, and obviously that made it a victory 10-7 because our offense didn't do very much that day. And that was the last game we played. We hope to have that step into the season, but you know, not that you in coaching. The thing that's important is the results, whether you win or lose the game. I think Massillon teaches that as well as any place else, and secondly would be Ohio State. But if you think about playing last year's football games without your best player, Keith Byers, who was an outstanding player the year before, and I think the best player in the country, and should have been in 1985, but had a broken foot and couldn't function as a running back, and really hurt us a little bit. And we lost some close football games, 12-7 to Wisconsin, and 31-28 to Illinois, and a close battle to Michigan, 24-14. That might have been turned around had we had Keith Byers. I kind of think, kind of hope that it would have been, because he was a great player.
You've got you want to comment a little bit? You got one of our boys down here now. It's doing pretty good for it.
Yeah, I'd love to comment on him. When I went back to scout him and look at him when he was a senior at Massillon, I never have seen a football player in high school, and I've watched high school football for a long time, give such great effort and play with such intensity. In fact, I went to first ball game against Akron Garfield, and I had to come back the second ball game against Perry, I believe, or vice versa, to watch it, because I said, I don't believe a kid can play 2 weeks in a row that way and give that great effort. I think that might be a fluke. So I told Glenn Mason, who was recruiting him, I'm going back two weeks in a row. So I went back the next week, and I said, Glenn, I've never seen a kid play with that intensity, and I've never coached a kid with that much intensity. And I've had some good football players like John Frank, and in high school, Henry Maxim, John Molbach, Whitfield, whatever, but I saw this kid really give effort. And he came to Ohio State. He's a linebacker. He works hard. I mean, he is a hard worker. He loves the game of football. He runs and hits about as hard as you'd want, and he plays well in the big football game. When you have a tough football game, he performs well. And that's how you measure a great football player. He is a great football player.
And of course, we're talking about
Chris Spielman. I didn't mention his name, huh? But most certainly, Chris is he's going to be a great leader on our football team. He leads by example, and that's the best way to do it. He runs to the ball and hits you, and just works so hard off the field, and gives you such great effort on the field.
You've got another boy coming down from Massillon,
Wes Sigenthaler, who I think will be a fine receiver for us, and a good punt return possibility or kickoff return possibility early in the year for us. He's a very skilled athlete and has got a lot of ability. Unfortunate experience in the sense that he was moved around a good bit in high school and never really got into one position. I think when he finally gets to the position, he'll be okay.
Well, I think you've covered
The waterfront?
things pretty well.
Well, I appreciate you coming down, Doc, and I say this, that the 2 years that I was at Massillon, I had a great experience, and I met a lot of fine people that I still know and respect. One of the big jobs, as you well know, in Massillon is being president of the Boosters Club. And Chuck Gump was one of the presidents, and he and I are still close friends because of him being president my first year. And I know that if you're president of the Boosters Club on an undefeated football team, it's a little more exciting than being in when you're losing football. So the two that I had, although one of them passed away, John Reeser, most certainly Gump has become a great friend and a supporter, not only of Massillon, which he is still, and even though he lives in Canton, which we won't hold against him right now from Massillon, is that he's a great supporter of Ohio State, which I really like.
Well, I can't say too much about people who live in Canton because I live over there half the year myself.
Well, we won't hold that against you now.
Okay. Well,
But you know what? I've learned one thing. There's still it's still tough for me to recruit kids from Camp McKinley because of my Massillon background.
Is that right?
I've tried to build that down, but I mean, we've had great Camp McKinley players here, but it's they seem to use that against me sometimes because I'm from Massillon in the Canton McKinley era. But you know, there's no area in this country when you talk about football and you go through the Akron, Canton, Massillon, Youngstown area for college football players, for All-American football players, for pro players. That area has turned out so many great football players. And it's nice to get one out of the Massillon program because he's probably got good skills and techniques of football, but he really likes the game, and it's been emphasized, and he's come through a program where they've been worked hard and they know hard work. Many young people don't know that. They have to learn it later on.
Well, Earle, again, I say we thank you very much for giving us this time, because I know you're getting ready to start into a real busy season down here. And
I hope you can condense that down to a 5-minute tape, Doc.
Oh, no, this is great. This is great, and I want you to know that we people in Massillon are real proud of you and support you, and we wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I most certainly really support the Massillon program.
Thank you.